Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Inside Artesian Basketball here on WREP 15 Sports. I'm your host, Eric Meyer, joined as always by Artesian head boys basketball coach Kip Staggs. Coach, appreciate you joining us again this year.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This will be a great show, a great first show of the season. We got a lot to talk about. The Artesians opened up their campaign on Saturday night in the contest against the Edgewood Mustangs. We'll talk with the coach about that game. We'll look at the season as a whole for the Artesians and take a look at what that 2018-2019 season has in store for Martinsville High School. Up first, though, Coach, you guys started off the season at home against the Edgewood Mustangs on Saturday, and this is an Edgewood ball club that, coming off of 22 wins last year, a sectional championship, and a win over a Bloomington South team they hadn't beaten in probably 10 or 15 years. Good ball club. They came in here. You guys made it a battle for them from the get-go. Got off to a pretty good start. Had to kind of ride through a little bit of a rough patch there, the third to fourth quarter. Edgewood, though, able to come away with a victory.
Yeah, unfortunately they did, and our guys played really hard. I thought we did a lot of good things on both ends of the floor. I'm not sure we played as smart as we needed to at different times throughout the course of the game. Some of that's experience, some of that's a little bit of youth. Some of that's just guys kind of being a little bit out of position in terms of what we were dealt with in terms of foul trouble. But overall, we pulled a lot of positives from the game. You know, we looked at being ahead at halftime 27-25. We really controlled the tempo, and we gave them 3 threes there late in the second quarter, which really, I really felt like if we held them there and scored a couple baskets, what I think we're capable of doing, we felt like we should have been up 6 to 8 points at halftime, but we weren't. Come out in the third quarter, didn't think we had the fire we needed to have to start the third quarter, but we held our own. We traded baskets with them, and then at the end of the third quarter there, 2 minutes to go, they go on an 11-0 run. It really put us our backs against the wall, but to credit our guys, we scored 25 points in the fourth quarter. We really made a run at them, had it a one-possession game as we went down the stretch.
Yeah, like you said, had a shot late there to be able to come back. So at least early on, as you look at this contest, you kind of go through the whole thing, the gamut of what happens. You get off to a good start, you get down after they do that big run like you talked about, and then are able to battle back there at the end. So at least early on, your kids here get that opportunity to be able to go through some of those game-type situations and emotions.
Well, absolutely, and you know your conditioning comes into question because it is your first game. You're going to run a stretch where you're going to get hyped early on. You're going to play really hard early, and then you got to catch your second breath. Where does that come? It comes with different guys at different points at that time of the year, and so I like to say we feel good about it, but at the end of the day, we just came up a little short.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights of the contest on Saturday night against the Edgewood Mustangs here. Reed Staggs starts you off with a basket.
Yeah, we got a loose ball there, and he's able to pick it up and put it in. This is a great outlet pass by Tyler to Wesley, and he's able to put it in. And so, we get in our 2-2-1, and we're trying to change some tempo there a little bit. Damon has really come in this fall and out of the summer has really improved his game and is really a contributing factor with what we do here. And then here's, Tyler gets the ball and picks up a loose ball and able to put it back in. Here we are looking inside. Noah Stout, his first career start with a nice turnaround jump shot in the paint. Damon is able to pick up the ball there at the top of the key. Nice post entry feed to Tyler, and he's able to score around the basket. And you see the score, 14-10, 10-10. And we're getting the ball inside. We're scoring around the bucket, and just really doing some nice things here. Here's a little bit of a fast break. We're able to find Damon on the right wing and knock it down for a 3. And so we really get off to a good start. Here you see we're up 24-16 after a nice backdoor cut from Reed from Tyler with the basket. But they were able to hit those couple baskets. And then they come out and they score 4 points in a row to start the third. And then Wesley answers here to make it 29-all. And then here we get that stage where we just kind of trade some baskets back and forth, kind of keep it close, get up 3, get down 1, back and forth. And here's Reed with a nice move in the paint. He's able to step through around a couple of defenders. And, again, up 2 points, down 2. And Damon knocks this 3 down to give us that lead again with about 2.5 to go. And then those next 2 minutes we really struggled from this point forward in this quarter. But again, credit our guys. We came back. You know, in this game we shot 45%. We out-rebounded the other team by 9. We had 9 turnovers. And if you do that in a lot of games, you're going to win. And but you know, here's Tyler with the drive, a little spin move, nice little shot by him. You see we're down 12, but it ends up being a 67-64 game. So from this point forward, you know, we're really active. We control the ball. We're active around the basket. Defensively, we hold our own. We're showing a lot of grit and toughness right through this stretch. Here's a nice drive by Wes, and he's able to put it in. That's something that Wes can do really well for us right now, and as he develops other parts of his game. To credit Edgewood right here, they blow up our sideline out of bounds play, but Tyler makes a play there with a 3. And so, you know, our crowd's into it, our cheerleaders are into it. At this point, we get it down to a 3-point game here, and about a minute to go. And then, you know, they make a couple free throws down the stretch. We turn it over and aren't able to come through with the win. But as I said, we're proud of our guys, the way we fought back. But you know, what our guys have got to understand that there's just small parts of the game that you've got to control. And you know, whether that was a 2-minute stretch there in the first quarter, or whether it's a 2-minute stretch in the third quarter, you control those. Now you take your 2 or 3, 4-point lead and make it 7 or 8. We've got to learn what those opportunities are and start taking advantage of them.
Couple things you can't control in a game sometimes are the guys in the striped shirts, and so you guys got in a little bit of foul trouble. That's really where Edgewood was able to take a little bit of advantage. You had foul trouble, you're trying to rest some guys, you're trying to get them some time on the bench here, and at the end of that third quarter, into the fourth quarter, Edgewood, to their credit though, able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, we got whistled for 25 fouls, and we've got to do a better job of moving our feet and playing with our hips and our legs instead of our hands, and play with our chest, and so those are things we've got to get better at, and we've worked on it this week. But they were able to knock those free throws down the stretch, and so you know, we'll get better from that standpoint. I thought our zone was a little bit at times where we didn't close out quick enough, hard enough, and so we've got to locate some shooters a little bit better. On the man side of things, we just can't give up. We can't give up 67 points and expect to win games, and I told our guys at the beginning of the season, you know, that's got to be a priority for us, and that's an area we've got to make sure that we do a good job with. And you know, we didn't have enough stops in that game. We scored enough points, we just didn't have enough stops.
Edgewood gets the victory over the Artesians in the opener, and you saw in the highlights and heard Coach Staggs talk about it, a lot of new faces out there, a couple familiar ones, obviously Reed Staggs coming back, Tyler Stead coming back, Damon Hillman got a little bit of time last year, but really a lot of new faces out there. Description of this club, like 2 words that come to mind, maybe young, inexperienced in parts, and maybe the inexperienced, the more important one. But you've got a lot of kids you're going to have to try to count on to replace the seniors that you lost from last year's team.
Well, you know, you go back and you look at the film from last year, and as you start to prepare for this year, you can, early part of the year, you can kind of get a tendency of what teams might do, and you know, even though their personnel might be different. And so I'm watching our guys from a year ago, and they're just a lot more confident in what they do. They're a lot more trusting in each other as I watch those game films. And then, you know, I watch our team right now, and we've got some guys that are a little bit uncertain about themselves, maybe not have the confidence that they need to have. But that's going to come to them as we go through repetition and time and more experiences. Obviously, Reed Staggs and Tyler Stead have the most experience of our returnees, and then Andy Myers coming off of a little bit of a football injury. Damon Hillman, as I mentioned earlier, has really played well this spring and summer. And then after you get past those 4, you know, you've got some question marks, and we've got to fill in some pieces. And as I've mentioned before in other modes, that we're a little bit of a team under construction, and we've got to put our hard hat on and bring our lunch pail and go to work and roll up our sleeves and find out ways to be successful. And now I think you saw some of that on Saturday, that we do have some possibilities here. It's just got to make it for 32 minutes and fill in some of those pieces.
That team under construction, a lot of that construction work happens over the summer, in the fall, and obviously in the short time frame before the first game, the 2 weeks that you have. Can you talk a little bit about how that went for your team as we kind of go backwards here to take a look at it, and how the summer went and in the preseason, if you will?
Well, the summer is so much different than the season. the pace, the conditioning, the expectations are so much different in June than they are in November. And so, and then you got a guy that misses because they go to this sport, and you got a guy that misses because of something else, and or you have a guy that, like this case, all summer we didn't play with Reed at all, and he didn't get released from his knee surgery until late August. So he's still battling some of that. And so we go through the whole summer where we're just throwing guys in and trying to just see where they fit in and what they can do or can't do. And we had a meeting with those guys at the end of June with some of their strengths and weaknesses. And then you start in September, and the IHSA changed the rule where you can practice 2 days a week, 2 hours a day, but you don't have all your guys, and so you don't want to put a bunch of plays in because they're not going to be there. So you really you spend time with skill development, you spend time with some conditioning and trying to make them more prepared. And so, you really can't put everything together until you got them all. And so, not until the second week of November did we have Andy and Chase was battling an injury, and so he's not 100% yet. And then you got Josh Ham, who's battling an injury himself, but he wasn't around because of baseball in the summer. So you got bits and pieces you're trying to pull together, but not until that second week in November till you really have everybody together. And then you just hope everybody's healthy. And we're not healthy. We're not a team that's 100% across the board, so we're battling some injuries. And so, it's just kind of, like I said, make work in progress, team under construction. We're just trying to grind it through here and try to stay with some very simple things and add to it as we go. And what I've told our guys is that we've got to get better mentally, because if you're strong mentally, when things break down, you're not going to panic. When things break down physically, you're not going to concede to fatigue if that's the case. And so you've got to work through some of those things. And I'll go back to a practice a couple weeks ago. I told our guys, some of you come to practice because you enjoy the game and you want to get better. Some of you come to practice because that's what you're supposed to do. Some of you come to practice because I'm just trying to get through practice. Some are trying to find a way to get out of practice. Some are physically can't able to practice. And then at the end of the day, some of you don't know how to practice. And so we got a whole gamut of guys when it just comes to practice about what their goal is. Compared to the group last year, senior-oriented, focused, come to practice, get better, no distractions, get the job done, in and out. Where this group is just different in the sense that they're young, inexperienced, trying to figure out what varsity athletics are about, trying to figure out how hard you have to work, at the pace you have to work at. And so we're closing that gap because it is so much different from the summer. The summer has a different feel to it. Nobody cares about what your record is, that whole deal. Now the spotlights are on, there's more people in the bleachers, there's a little bit more at stake, playing time becomes a little bit more precious. You got 160 minutes to spread out between your group of 10, 12 guys, whatever you got. And so it's just different. And so our guys are starting to understand some of that. And when you throw in those minor distractions, a guy being late to practice, a guy not doing this, a guy not doing that, it becomes more of a distraction that kind of takes away from what you're trying to do.
When you look at your team and you mentioned some of the guys that you're going to count on, who are some of the kids that are maybe the young kids that are starting to respond to some of those things that you talked about, starting to get the fact of how hard you have to practice, what you have to do mentally for those games? Who are some of the kids maybe that you're looking through, or a group of kids that you're going to have to count on here as the season progresses?
Well, Andy Myers is a guy that we can talk about. He's a junior. He played a little bit last year, understands it a little bit, but he's coming out of football. He's coming out of an injury. So he's had a better week this week, and I think you'll see him continue to get better as the season wears on. We already mentioned Damon Hillman. Damon is a guy that really had a good summer and a fall, and I think you're going to see him score the ball much better than maybe he did a year ago. He has a lot more confidence. He's starting to understand a little bit better of how hard you have to play and compete. So those are two guys that I think you're going to see great strides out of. Noah Stout is a 6'6" guy that has all kinds of skill, but it needs experience on the court. He can drop step, dunk it, he can shoot the three, but he needs that experience and that speed of the game. It'll catch up with him, but right now it's a little fast for him. Some other guys, Chase Havlin. Chase is a guy that's been in our program, is a senior. Didn't play a whole lot last year, coming off a little bit of a football injury. Just now has had his real first full week of practice this past week, and so you're going to see him start to get a little bit better. You look at some other guys, Zach Lynn battles pretty hard. Josh Ham has gotten a little better over the week. Craig Westner comes to battle and work every week. We've got some other guys there in the pipeline that Braxton Wilson really played well in the JV game last Saturday. Has some bright spots, but again is just young in the process. Dayton Devon, 6'9", is a guy that can really be an impact player down the road, but the game's fast for him right now at this level, so he needs to gain experience at 6 o'clock and to help him develop. And, I think I might have skipped a guy in there, but, overall we've got a mix of some sophomores and some juniors that haven't played, a freshman there, and over a period of 5 to 6 weeks, we're going to see a lot of growth out of those guys, and I think as you see that growth, you'll see the growth out of our team.
Trying to get some growth this weekend as well, because you'll have your first doubleheader weekend. That's going to be a new experience for a lot of these kids as well at the varsity level. You've got your opening mid-state conference contest, and you're going to play Greenwood Ball Club that may be in a similar position as to what you guys are. They lost a lot of kids off of a group that had played really for 4 years for that ball club, and so now they're going to have a little bit of some differences. What are you going to expect out of the Woodmen coming to town on Friday night?
Well, I tell you, they are better than maybe advertised. They have a nice 6'4" kid in the post that can really score the ball. I remember last year at this time he was a JV guy. They stuck him in there and played a little bit as a varsity player throughout the course of the year, and now he's finding himself in a major role for their team. His name is Dowling. He had 10 rebounds against Newcastle in the first half against Newcastle. And so he's a force inside, can really spin and score around the rim. They've got a nice young man that's a guy that played a little bit for him, and Drew, that can shoot the ball and get to the basket pretty well. And then they have those missing pieces, but they're very complimentary of one another. They're young. They've got a freshman that they start. They got a couple other kids that have got some experience. But, you look at their points per game. One guy averages 11, another guy's 8, another guy's 13, another guy's 8. So they've got balance with what they have. They play fairly hard right now at this point in the season. And so it'll be a big game for us. One of our goals, obviously, each year is to win the conference. And for us to be able to do that, that makes this game real important for us.
It's the Greenwood matchup, like we said, coming up on Friday at the John R. Wooden Gymnasium, the opening Mid-State Conference game of the season as well. You talked a little bit about Greenwood's personnel and what they have. What do they like to do? What do you expect that they will do in the 2 game films you've probably seen thus far from them? What do you expect them to do offensively and defensively?
Well, they play a lot of man-to-man. They switch occasionally. On the offensive side, they like to spread the floor, try to get to the basket. That's where Drew gets really takes an advantage of a mismatch or whatever. And so, and then they'll go inside. They get a little high-low when he's in the game. So those are primarily the 2 or 3 things that they'll do. And then, I think they'll press us a little bit, 2-2-1, try to cause us slow the game down. And those are some things we can expect. I expect just a really hard-fought game. I think that Coach Bradburn does a great job for them, and has really elevated their program and has done some good things. So I expect a hard-fought game on Friday.
What will be important for you guys to try to come away with a victory? Some keys that you're looking at?
Well, I think we've got to have guys in the game that are productive in the game, in the sense that you can play minutes, but what are you doing with your minutes? We've got to have production out of each one of our guys, whether it's a 2-minute stint or whether it's a 26-minute stint or whatever. We've got to have production. And I'll give you an example, and I told our guys this. We had 29 rebounds on Saturday, but we had 20 from 3 guys. So we've got 6 or 7 guys that get 9, and those guys have got to get more than just 9. They've got to be able to do more than that. Turnovers, we kept our turnovers down. We got to definitely do that. I think it's important that we play defense better in the sense of that we're not fouling, that we're aggressive with our hips and our feet, but we don't put people at the line to give them some easy baskets. And then I think we need to be efficient offensively. I think we did a pretty good job in terms of what we did, but we've got to run and execute our stuff a little bit better than we did the last week. So I think it's 2 or 3 things. Keep our turnovers down, don't put them on at the foul line, and then execute better on our end.
Able to do that, looking for the Mid-State Conference victory in the opener against Greenwood. Varsity tip probably around 7:30 at the John R. Wooden Gymnasium on Friday night. Get out there and help support the Artesians. Then you come back on Saturday and you'll travel over to the Bill Stearman Athletic Complex, there on the campus of Columbus North High School, to battle the Bulldogs. I know the scout usually happens, or you at least get the kids prepared on Saturday morning for that.
Right.
But what do you expect to be able to see when you travel over to Columbus on Saturday?
Well, they're 1-1 on the season. They got beat at Heritage Christian 58-53. Then they beat Hauser on Saturday. They play at Shelbyville on Friday. And so, they've got a win under their belt. They've got a couple games under their belt. The Barker kid's an outstanding sophomore. Really shoots it well. Some of you may know him. His father, Lance Barker, played basically during the Ryan Wolf, Bob Denton, Chris Wilburn. He was a Columbus East graduate. But his son's an outstanding sophomore. Kind of has an unorthodox shot, but it goes in. Just very crafty about how he plays. They've got a left-handed kid that can really shoot the ball pretty well. They're not as big as you would think Columbus North has been in the past, but they do have some 6'4", 6'5" guys that will play a factor. They play a little bit more full court in a pressing zone scenario, a little 1-2-2. They'll change up their pressures. They'll be really active in a three-quarter court, and then they'll be real soft on that 1-2-2 in a quarter court. So they'll mix those pressures up against us on Saturday. The big thing for us is playing back-to-back, being able to bounce back on a short turnaround with some young guys, inexperienced guys, and be able to understand what you have to do. And the key element is for us to have a great mindset in both of these games. We got to have a great mindset on how we prepare, how we pay attention, our mindset on the court, and then your mindset after Friday and getting ready for Saturday. So it's got to be a lot of focus, and I think that's where we lack a little bit right now. We've got to have more of a collective focus across the board, and it goes back to some of our conversations we've had. But 2 great games this weekend. Greenwood, obviously, conference game. Great facility to play at on Saturday, one of the best gyms in the country, not just in Indiana. A lot of history there. To think back to the days when they pulled the bleachers out on the stage during the regional when it was a single class, and 1975 and Martinsville's there playing Franklin and Columbus North there. And just a tremendous facility to think about how that gym has just so much history, and they're going to turn the lights out on us on Saturday. They'll have their spotlight with the Bulldog going around the big CN there on the court. They'll have the lights going all over the place. So they'll have a little bit of a Chicago Bulls feel to it during that time frame. So that'll be a good experience for our guys too. So just looking forward to seeing how we respond from this week's of practice, learning what we came out of the Edgewood game, and taking it forward to this weekend.
Trying to take it forward to this weekend. One thing we haven't mentioned yet, the responsibility of getting your kids ready for this weekend not only falls on you, but falls on your assistant coach and your coaching staff. And you've got a lot of new faces there, but a lot of familiar faces to people who've been around the Martinsville program. Yeah,
we're very, very fortunate. So over the spring, there was a few coaching changes on the boys and girls side, as you know, and created some opportunities for people. And Tim Dearlove is a teacher here in our building, played at Wisconsin Green Bay, finished up his career at Bellarmine down in Louisville. Just a tremendous, tremendous mind for the game. He's really been good for our kids and our program so far, and just really, really accepted the challenge and has done a great job with our guys, honestly, and just can't be any more pleased with him. And then on the JV side of things, Rob Helms, after 30 years of coaching at the middle school, we found an opportunity for him. I asked him if he could coach in a tie, and he said he could, and so he's jumped on board and led his JV team to a great win on Saturday. Come from behind to win after being down at halftime, and so he's been great with our guys as well. And then Bob Denton returns for his second year as our freshman coach, and he brings a lot of experience. And then we're able to add Ryan Taylor, Ryan is a young man that also played in our program years ago and played at Earlham College and has been in our middle school program for 3 or 4 years, and then brought him along to assist Bob Denton and those freshmen. So we've really been able to make some changes in our program, and from a coaching standpoint, we're very pleased with how those changes have developed, and everybody's done a great job so far. So, you know, when you have that empty nest syndrome and who's going to be around, you sometimes wonder how it's all going to come about, but we can't be any more pleased with how it's all developed, and we've really made some good hires in those positions.
All right, Coach, we appreciate it. We'll see you there this weekend in both contests.
Hey, and I appreciate that. And one thing I just want to share too is we will play at Bankers Life on December 7th, and trying to get the word out there to our fans and patrons. But we'll play Plainfield on December 7th at Bankers Life. That's a 6 o'clock game. I know it's a little bit early, but that's the time slot they gave us. It's a conference game. We hope that our community comes out and supports it. We do have tickets available in our athletic office now. They are $10, and we are one of 3 games that will take place that night. And so bring your family up to downtown Indianapolis, take them out and look at the lights after the game, make an evening of it. And you know, we're looking for that opportunity. It's one of those games you kind of circle. That it's just a neat experience for our guys, but also it is a conference game, so there's a little bit of weight on the game.
Be good to get in here and purchase the tickets here. You probably get a little bit of a cut if they purchase it here. So if you're going to go, come in here and get them at the athletic office.
Exactly, and they're $13 at the door, so you're going to save a little bit of money. So if you buy them here in the athletic office.
All right, Coach. As always, appreciate you joining us. We'll see you this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Artesian head coach Kip Staggs here inside Artesian basketball. Big weekend coming up. Coach Staggs took a look at the team this year, what to expect. A lot of things should be a fun season for the Artesians as it gets rolling really full steam ahead this weekend with the 2 games, Greenwood and then Columbus North. As always, I'd like to thank the head coach for coming in. For the head coach Kip Staggs, along with the RTV2 class who helped produce it, I'm Eric Meyer. We'll see you again next time inside Artesian basketball.